Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the Breitling Montbrillant Legende. Of course, this is going to be a larger version of the legendary Navitimer. Stick around and find out more. Welcome back. Okay, so today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Breitling Montbrillant Legende. Now, when you see that word written, it's going to be spelled like legend with an E at the end, but it is pronounced Legende. It is going to be obviously not a native English word, but that is how we would pronounce it. But if you're looking for it on the internet, just know that it's spelled legend with an E at the end of it. Now, this is going to be a 47 millimeter watch. Of course, if you're familiar with Breitlings and the Navitimers, that comes in a 42 millimeter size, slightly under it, but that's the size that they classify it as. Now, like I said, this is going to be a 47 millimeter piece, and that's going to be, from one side of the case to the other, across the case as a dimension. One thing about that, it is a pretty large piece, but if you're familiar with the Navitimer and it's a little bit too small for you, you're trying to move up to a larger piece, of course, you've got the Bentleys, you've got, the Panerais out there. There are a whole bunch of watches that come in much larger sizes than 42 millimeter. But if you're trying to stick with that like iconic Navitimer look and feel, the Legende might be your best bet because it does have a lot of striking features that we can identify with that of the Navitimer. Of course, the primary thing that I'm discussing right now is going to be the slide rule on the bezel, which is, of course, a functional tool that allows you to make quick calculations, multiplication, and division on the fly. And we've done a couple videos, of course, on the Navitimers. Done another video on Montbrillant. I recommend checking it out. I go into a good bit of history about where the term comes from, Montbrillant. Quick little recap, it was a road behind the factory at the Breitling factory when they first created a factory. Now, this watch came out in 2007 and was only in production for about 5 years, ending around 2012. This particular one, the one that we're showcasing here on this video, is from 2010, and it is a full set. You'll see the box here, it comes with the papers, and of course the watch. You always get an 18-month warranty when you buy from SwissWatchExpo. So this watch has everything that you would need if you're looking for a significant piece. Now, I talked about it being a larger size, and of course it is 47 millimeters when you're kind of measuring across the diameter of the case. But if you were to measure the lug-to-lug width across the entire piece of the case, the watch itself, it comes in at about 59 millimeters. And of course, it's 15 millimeters thick, so it is a decently thick watch, but because of how long it is and how wide it is, it doesn't stick out really thick like you would expect from like the Rolex Deep Sea or like a Sea Dweller. It is a little bit lower profile, but know that it is a 15 millimeter watch. So there's a whole lot of metal in this piece, a lot going on, and I definitely want to dig into some of the elements of the movement itself. Now, before I go there, I do want to talk a little bit more about the size. And the reason I bring that up, though, is more about the weight. This watch weighs just a little bit under a half of a pound. So it's not something that's necessarily going to like weigh you down, but you are going to feel it on your wrist. So if you're looking for a piece that's, a little bit larger than the Navitimer, this might be a little bit much for you. I mean, it is a massive watch, and it's something to take into consideration. But when Breitling was designing this piece, they took that into account, the extra weight, the extra size, and one of the things that they did was, they used the 7-link Navitimer bracelet. Now, you'll notice that this has what we call in the watch industry a holes case, right? It has holes in the lugs where the pins that hold the bracelet in place are actually screwed through. Now, this is opposed to a no-holes case, which will oftentimes on the back side of the case, you'll notice that there's a little place for a spring bar, which is just simply a pin that goes in between the links of the bracelet that springs together so that you can pull it out and put it in place. Now, the reason I bring that up is not just about the appearance itself of the case and having holes in it. But the science or the technology behind this, the engineering behind the way that they engineered this bracelet, it's much sturdier. It's much more durable and reliable than a, traditional or like the spring pin. But it is, like I said, when you have this much weight, you really want to take that into account. So it does not surprise me that Breitling included a Hulls case with these screwed in lugs. Now, of course, these links are going to be solid stainless steel. They're not semi-hollow. They're not just hollow loops of steel like we see in the vintage Datejust. It's a solid bracelet on a solid case, which of course helps us understand why it comes out to be a little bit under a half pound. Now, my favorite part about this watch is going to be that, one of my favorite parts is going to be the bracelet, right? And we talked about what holds it together, but my favorite element of it is going to be this smooth taper. You'll see that it's almost seamless. Going from the lugs on the case into the bracelet, it has a very nice taper that runs all the way down to where the clasp is. And if you're not really too familiar with the bracelet designs interacting with lugs, what I've got here on my wrist is a Rolex Yachtmaster, 40 millimeter size. So this is like the standard sport watch size in the Rolex community or the Rolex world. And it does have a taper bracelet with thicker links near the lug that get a little bit smaller near the clasp. But you'll notice there's this like offset jump from where the lugs end and the bracelet begins that just doesn't have the same flow. And I really appreciated that because the watch and the bracelet are one. You wear them together. It's all a part of the same look, the same appearance, and the feel of it. And this just has a really smooth continuity to it. So I really appreciate that feat and that design element that Breitling took into consideration. Now, going into the actual watch itself, it has a Breitling B23 movement in it, which is based on the Valjoux 7750, but not quite. It's actually based on an ETA-based 7753. If you're familiar with those movements, the Valjoux is going to have, the 7750 is going to have 3 subdials. And in this one, you'll know it only has twin registers. You've got a 60-second running seconds over here at 9 o'clock, and you've got a 30-minute counter over here at 3. Normally, the date's going to be a little offset, and there's going to be a third subdial down at 6 o'clock. But not on this particular piece. Now, it does have a 42-hour power reserve, and it is a chronometer. It's actually, certified chronometer, so it's going to have, the high level of accuracy that we're looking for in our pieces, especially in today's day and age. Now, it's also a chronograph, so it is going to have the stop-start functions. Again, the running seconds are going to be over here at 9 o'clock. So the big second hand is going to be your counting seconds if you're using your stopwatch. Of course, it does have the hour and minute hands located in the center of the dial, just like we would expect. But there are a couple of elements that kind of separate this one from some of the other Navitimers. And most importantly, you'll notice there's this small red ring that's almost like a dial, but it's really just a marker that goes around the entire dial, but it's not out of a base of 60. It's a base of 100. So if you're trying to do time conversions into percentages, this is something that you could use on the fly. So of course, the second hand running around, once it makes one full complete circle, 60 seconds have passed, but that's 100% of 1 minute. So you can actually start it at the top, and then whenever you press pause or stop on your chronograph on the stopwatch, you can actually see, how many percents of a minute have passed. Conversely, you could set the minute hand up at the top at 12, do the same thing for percentage of an hour. And if you wanted to go a little bit further and get percentage of a day, you could use the hour hand. The one thing you would have to keep in mind is that the hour hand goes around twice in a day. So while the register is going to be, or the scale is going to read to 100, just keep in mind if you're doing a calculation with the hour hand that that's only going to be 50. It will need to go around 2 times to get 100% of a day. Now, if you want to learn more about this piece or you've got other pieces that you're interested in, definitely let us know. We're always here to showcase things that we find interesting. But if there's something that you find interesting, let us know and we'll get you more information about it, showcase the watch. Don't forget, hit the bell, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.